Hello, the purpose of this video is to give you some tips for preparing for the online exams in COM 4740. Here are some things you'll want to know about the exam. The exam is set up in a multiple choice question format. These are application questions, not definition questions. And what I mean by that is, for example, I'm not going to ask you what is the definition of coercive power, and then you choose the definition from a list. Instead, I'll tell you a little story or anecdote and ask something like, what kind of power does this represent? And then your answer choices would be various kinds of power. So in order to correctly answer a question like that, you'll need to know the course terminology quite well in order to match them up with the questions I'm going to be asking. There are 50 questions total. Each is worth 3 points for a total of 150 points for the exam. You have 75 minutes to complete the exam from the time you begin, and you get one attempt. What this means is that when you go into the exam, the clock starts ticking and it will close in 75 minutes from that time. So you'll want to watch the clock and make sure you're completing it within the time allotted. The exam is set up to grade automatically, and your score should feed over to the grade book. A couple of things to keep in mind here. On the syllabus quiz, you got multiple attempts. Here you only get one attempt, and it is timed. So once you're in the exam, you will need to finish taking the exam. You won't be able to exit and then go back in. The best way to prepare for the exam is, firstly, to have read the book and taken good notes on the chapters. Secondly, review the study guide carefully. And thirdly, engineer your environment for success while you're taking the exam. And in the upcoming slides, I'll explain what I mean by each of these preparation steps. Let's talk about the textbook and the readings. Nothing is going to take the place of actually reading the chapters. I know that students in online classes tend to rely pretty heavily on the video lectures, but in those I'm just picking out certain concepts in the chapter that I want to highlight and to give you more examples of and to elaborate on. But there's a lot of material in the chapter that I don't lecture on, and some of that material shows up on the exam. So nothing's going to take the place of having read the entire chapters and having taken notes on those chapters. Be aware that the index of the book is not comprehensive. You might think you can look up certain terms, but then have difficulty finding them. It might be categorized differently than you expected or listed under a different letter of the alphabet. So I want to caution you against thinking that the index of the book is going to be extremely helpful during an exam. You may use your book and notes during the exam. I expect you to. Online students usually do. However, I caution you against relying too heavily on them. If you don't have a strong grounding in this material, your book and notes are just going to slow you down rather than help you. The exam is timed, and you'll want to be able to move pretty rapidly through the questions, not to get stuck on a question and spend a chunk of time trying to look up the answer while the clock is ticking. There is a folder on eLearning called Exam Study Guides, and inside the folder you'll find a study guide for the midterm and one for the final. These study guides give you a list of terms that you should review carefully before each of the exams. You'll want to be solidly grounded in the definitions of those, be able to give examples of them, and know where they are in your book and in your notes in case you do want to refer to them during the exam. That will prepare you well. When you're ready to take the exam, I recommend that you engineer your environment for success. So find 75 minutes of uninterrupted time where you won't be bothered by kids, pets, roommates. You might want to ask anyone you live with to observe a do not disturb policy during that period of time. Consider relocating if that might help you. Take your laptop to the library or coffee shop, for example. Gather all the materials that you think you'll need, like your book, your notes, any snacks, or anything you want to have with you, and then enter the exam and begin. When you're ready to enter the exam, you'll sign on to eLearning, go to the Assessments menu and choose Quizzes, and then click on the appropriate exam, either the midterm or the final. I encourage you to read the questions very carefully. Sometimes students have gotten questions wrong because they were trying to work too rapidly and didn't read carefully enough. You'll see multiple choice answers for each question. Just click the button in front of your answer choice like you did on the syllabus quiz. Click Save often. There's a Save button on each screen, but remember to click Submit Quiz when you're all done. Clicking Submit Quiz is like picking up your exam, taking it to the front of the room, and handing it to the professor. It tells the e-learning system that your exam is complete and ready to be graded. Be aware of the time limit. There's a 75-minute window for you to take the exam. So once you enter the exam, you'll need to finish within 75 minutes or it will lock on you. So I recommend keeping a watch or clock nearby. And as you work, be aware that you have 50 questions to complete and be aware of how much time you have left. After you complete the exam, you should be able to see your score and should be able to go in and view the ones that you got wrong. If you'd like to discuss your exam, please make an appointment with me on Calendly.com and sign up for a time slot when we can have a WebEx meeting. So that's it. Use the study guide to prepare. The best way to prepare is to imagine that you're not going to be able to use your book and notes, even though you will be. Review your book and notes carefully prior to going into the exam, and I wish you great good luck. Talk to you soon.